All right, now UFC 307 wrapped up last night. It is first thing Sunday morning, and I want to do a full card recap for this event. Now, this event was largely forgettable. There were a lot of stinkers on this card, so I will be ripping through the earlier fights all the way up till the main event, if I'm being brutally honest, okay? Thank God for that main event. Otherwise, people would have forgotten this event in its entirety. If not, they would have just remembered it as being absolutely infuriating, okay? But either way, we're going to get into it. So let's start with the first fight of the night, which was Court McGee and Tim Means. Now, this made it seem like the card was going to get a good start, okay? Court McGee got a quick finish, came relatively easily. I thought Tim Means was going to be able to bust him up at range, do some damage in the clinch, and things like that. But Court McGee got the takedown very easily, got an arm around the neck, and just neck cranked Tim Means until he tapped. I was a little bit surprised by this. I think a lot of people were. Tim Means was a decently sized favorite, but Court McGee's a lot older in his career. He's not gotten a finish in a very long time. So even if people thought he was going to win, I don't know if it was in this manner, but either way, dude, good performance by Court McGee. Like I said, a lot older in his career, hasn't gotten a finish in a very long time, and he looked good. So credit to him. And started the card off, in a strong way, but then it kind of just dropped off from there. Now let's move up the card to Carla Esparza versus Tisha Pennington. Now, I heard people complaining about the scoring of this fight, and I'm not quite sure why. Carla Esparza doesn't do anything with her takedowns, and we're going to get to that later, okay? I am so sick of the commentary team and other commentators of the sport talk about control time and how this is effective, and it drives me up the wall. Carla Esparza did not do basically anything when she got Tisha Pennington in the position that she wanted her to, whereas Tisha Pennington was landing on the feet, doing damage. Even when Carla was trying to get onto the ground past her guard, she was getting hit with up kicks and things like that did seem to actually rock her at one point. So, I saw some people were upset, and if you look at the total strike numbers, it can be deceiving, but Carla Esparza truly did almost no damage whatsoever, and you just, listen, not that it matters, who cares? Do you know what I mean? This fight sucked overall in general, do you know what I mean? But I guess good performance for Tisha Pennington. I'm so sorry, I was already sick. That main event made me lose my voice. I know I sound like fucking RFK, okay? Let's just get through it. Moving up the card to Ryan Spann versus Ovince St. Preux. Okay. Ryan Spann is so unbelievably inconsistent that I just don't know how to pick his fights. And every time he loses, he goes back to the same excuse, and then he'll have a good performance, and then it's insane to me. Now, his best... he's at his best earlier in the rounds. He's very explosive and athletic, and we saw it in this fight, especially compared to an older Ovince St. Preux, who you can tell that he's getting up there. And I mean, we've been able to tell this for a while. I just thought he might be able to experience this one. His weapons are just not as effective as they used to be. He's not, his reactions aren't as good. And I thought for a moment when we saw when Ovince St. Preux shot for that single leg and Ryan Spann wrapped up the neck, I thought we were going to see what we'd seen so many times before, which is like a guy hold on to a submission too long that he doesn't really have against OSP, and it hit the mat, and then OSP gets him in, a Von Flue choke or something, finds a submission once they get there. Not the case. Ryan Spann was able to hold on to that neck and get the submission. So credit to him, I guess. Good performance by Ryan Spann. I just have a really hard time picking this guy's fights because he is so inconsistent. But good performance nevertheless. Moving up the card to Cesar Almeida versus Ihor Potieria. Now this was like the first fight where we got a look at how absolutely fucking horrific the officiating in general, the commission of Utah, when the UFC goes to places, oftentimes they will get their local guys to help ref or help judge at the very least some of the fights, which was the case here. That was not a ref that like the UFC brought from Vegas or whatever, like one of the notable guys that we would all know just by facial recognition. This was what seemingly was a local Utah or Salt Lake City referee, and he was fucking horrible, okay? Despite the him separating them after like 10 seconds on the fence, which, listen, dude, I don't mind separations, but not that quickly. Do you know what I mean? We had 3 eye pokes and a low blow, and not a single point was taken from Cesar Almeida. Not to mention, the 3rd eye poke, the referee didn't even give Poteria time to recover at all. He literally just waved him off, made them continue fighting. There should have been, at the very least, a point deduction. Okay, and I don't know that it would have mattered because for some reason I'm remembering a 30-27 scorecard, but holy shit, dude. I hope that ref is never allowed to ref a UFC fight ever again. He should probably not even be reffing professional MMA, period, even on the regional scene or anything like that. Doesn't know what he's doing. You can't allow somebody to eye poke a guy 3 times in a row when you're warning him for how his fingers are outstretched and he continues to do it and you do nothing about it. What good is a warning if you're not going to make good on your warning? Do you know what I mean? It just becomes bullshit. You're just yapping at that point. If you're not going to take a point after warning a guy 3 times, what the fuck are you doing? Right? Very dirty fight by Cesar Almeida. Didn't look all that impressive otherwise, right? He was doing well in moments. He was landing good shots and whatever, but, you know, considering all the rest of it, there's a massive asterisk, in my opinion, on this fight, or on this win for Cesar Almeida. And Poteria, you could tell it was getting him mad because he would, you know, after a foul, he would, especially like the second, third one, he would start being very aggressive, which was like kind of getting him in trouble and sometimes. And then he's trying to implement some grappling and the ref doesn't let him. It's fucking crazy to me. That ref should never, and thank God we didn't see him further throughout the night. I don't think, you know, I think he probably did get reprimanded in some which way, shape, or form, but holy dude, that was brutal. Moving up the card to Austin Hubbard versus Alexander Hernandez. Another pretty forgettable fight, if I'm being honest, dude. I mean, there were a lot of these forgettable fights. Good performance by Alexander Hernandez, I guess. I feel like, man, I feel like he was getting a little bit too much glaze from the commentary team. I wasn't, you know, I wouldn't have been surprised if Austin Hubbard was up 2 rounds. He was kind of just consistently, like, beating Alexander Hernandez, and Hernandez looked pretty beat up by the end of that fight. Like, I thought, honestly, that Austin Hubbard had probably done enough damage to win 2 rounds, but the commentary team thought otherwise. I guess the judges thought otherwise, or at the very least 2 of them. I guess Hernandez's big explosive movements and things like that somehow win him rounds. I don't know, man. Like, I'm not saying he didn't land, and if you look at these total strike numbers, I mean, I don't know that that's what I saw, but hey, I thought Austin Hubbard was doing a good job, just consistently, you know, not a whole lot of big moments, but just kind of beating him up throughout the course of 3 rounds. But I'll tell you what, dude, you know, I don't remember it strongly enough to say that I thought it was a robbery, and I don't fucking care because, you know, these fights, man, some of them were just not very good. Moving up the card to Marina Rodriguez versus Ismael Lucindo. You know, here we are again. I mean, Jesus, dude. You know, when we had Dana White absolutely fucking tearing into the fighters on the UK card that had to fight in their home country at like 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, and then we get these guys, and yes, we're at altitude, but it's at regular prime time. Where's that energy for these guys? Where's that energy, Dana? Come on, dude. You need to shit on, you know, he had a lot to say about the officiating and things like that, but not so much to say about the, you know, how, you know, not very good these fights were. I'm not even going to bother with this one. Low strike count overall throughout the course of 3 rounds, like very low. I mean, listen, dude, just not a good fight at all. Iceman Lucindo gets a what? Split decision victory. Good for her, dude. Moving up the card to Stephen Thompson versus Joaquin Buckley. Here we go. Now we have something to talk about. Okay, so Stephen Wonderboy Thompson looked great, I thought, in the first 2 rounds, although you could tell that he was starting to slow down a bit. He was a little bit more stationary in this fight than we've seen him in others, and I'm not quite sure if it, you know, it's probably the age. Not to mention the way that he's always gotten out of range, the way that he's always exited has been nerve-wracking at times when you watch it, because he just backs straight up and like he moves his head back, like he kind of, you know, bends at the torso. And that worked when he was younger, but it's not really working anymore, is it? Like, you could see once Buckley would just start going a little bit crazy, extending his combinations, just throwing wild shit, he would kind of land a little bit, because Wonderboy's just trying to back out of there with his head straight up in the air. And it was making me nervous throughout the whole fight. I was just thinking, like, God damn. And he kept backing up into the fence, too. Like, it's like he wasn't aware of where he was in the cage. Rather than angling off so that doesn't happen, he would just, you know, go back all the way until he got caught up on the fence. And then he would have to try and get out of there when Joaquin Buckley was entering. And I thought that Wonderboy won the first round, and then I think I gave Buckley the second round. I thought Wonderboy was doing his thing in the third round as well. I thought he was having more success, but then Joaquin Buckley, out of fucking nowhere, you know, crouches down, all his power into it, jumps up like Mike Tyson and fucking cracks Wonderboy in the face, up against the cage, and basically just slumps him, dude. And I was kind of hoping we would get a retirement speech from Stephen Wonderboy Thompson after that, because listen, dude, it's one thing when we're seeing you get, grapple fucked by guys like Bilal or Gilbert Burns, or we're seeing you get submitted by Shavkat. Hey, no hard, you know what I mean? I'm not going to hold that one against you all that much. It's Shavkat Rakhmonov. Do you know what I mean? Joaquin Buckley, I'm going to be honest, even after this fight, I don't find him to be that good. I think he has some physical attributes that he is good at using, and I guess that's a, credit to him. But technically speaking, I don't think he's all that good, and I still don't think he's all that good even after that knockout. So when you're losing to a guy that I feel like you should have been able to completely school on the feet, and I understand he was probably concerned about the takedown and things like that, but it wasn't like Buckley was able to take him down and hold him down. Wonderboy was basically able to get back to his feet every single time he did get taken down if he didn't stop the initial takedown. You know what I mean? Like, he did a good job at defending in this fight. You see 4 of 7 takedowns on the stats, but Wonderboy popped right back up every time. But then when you just get cracked like that by something like that, when you're kind of caught up on the fence, when a few years ago you had such good range management, that would not happen. You would angle off. You're very rarely getting caught up on the fence. Do you know what I mean? So I felt like I was hoping Wonderboy would retire after that fight. But regardless, good adjustments made by Buckley, because he realized that he's not going to win a technical fight, and he also struggled taking him down, so he just kind of started winging huge power shots, hoping that he would catch Wonderboy, and he did, and it worked, so credit to him. And obviously he's got power, and he's still got power in the third round, even if we think or suspect that Wonderboy's chin might be iffy or whatever it is, right? He is obviously in his 40s, and we're at not a lower weight class, but 170 is not, where we see these older dudes have a ton of success. So credit to Joaquin Buckley, man. I mean, hell, what do you want to say? All right, moving up the card too. Ketlen Vieira versus Kayla Harrison. Bro, you're a minus 900. Listen. Okay. This fight was interesting in the sense that Kayla Harrison was not able to just dominate. She has one entry to shoot for a leg. Okay? And it doesn't work after the first couple. Once the woman has figured it out, how do you not have something else to go to? And you can tell that on the feet, Kayla Harrison is not good. It does not feel natural to her to strike, which is crazy, because like, I get that she's not been doing mixed martial arts for that long relative to how long she's been doing judo, but something that really frustrates me, and it frustrates me when I see a guy do it, but we see a lot of girls do it, okay? When they're at range and they're just feinting just sporadically, okay? This drives me nuts, because I know that you're not doing, like, you're just doing that to do it. Do you know what I mean? And it's frustrating to watch, because you're not feinting with a purpose. You're not feinting to get Ketlen to go this way or to go that way so that you can do this and then that and whatever else. You're just fucking moving. Do you know what I mean? You're just moving. And it's like, why are you doing that, first of all? Second of all, can you try a new setup for your takedown? Because it's not working. Do you know what I mean? And then she wasn't even able to really do a whole lot when she got them. She was able to land a few good elbows and things like that, but I thought that she would have a fairly easy fight here. And the reason why, when I was watching this at first, I was like, this is interesting in the sense that, like I said, she wasn't able to just go, like, run through the chick So then it made me think, oh, well, whoever she fights from the main event after this fact, it makes it a little bit more interesting because maybe it will be competitive. But then you see them fight and it just goes away immediately. There's no interest in it for me whatsoever. She was the only reason that anybody had a reason. She was the only thing that made anybody have a reason, be remotely even excited to watch a bantamweight championship fight. And after last night, when you coupled that fight with the fight in the co-main event, I don't know how anybody could be. You know, she could lose, if we're being quite frank, but that co-main event fight made me, oh man, this is the good performance by Kayla Harrison, moving up the card to Roman Dolidze versus Kevin Holland. Now, listen, this was a weird one. Okay. Kevin Holland was doing good on the feet. Roman Dolidze seemed to respect the fact that Kevin Holland could probably put him away. Dude, my eyes are, like, probably bloodshot. I can hardly open them, okay? Listen, we're going to get through it, dude. This is probably going to be the worst recap video of all time. Kevin Holland was doing good on the feet. Roman Dolidze seemed like he was having a hard time figuring out how he was going to get in on him. And you could tell that he respected the fact that Kevin Holland could probably hurt him with a shot. Roman gets him down. Kevin tries to roll over. Roman Dolidze's in full mount, basically. And allegedly a rib pops out or breaks or something like that. Although in the post-fight press conference, we had zero medical update. Which usually by that time, I know Kevin Holland was on the main card, but usually by that time we do have a medical update. Dana White got asked about it. He says, I think I might have that information. He says, no, I don't. Which kind of makes me think there wasn't necessarily an injury. Although there could have been, like, you know, if the, like Dana said, if the cartilage between the ribs just pops or whatever. And I'm not trying to shit on Kevin Holland, but here's the thing, dude. I feel like we've seen him do this in fights before, and I know that he has this, like, reputation of being this badass who just will fight anywhere at middleweight, welterweight, whoever the fuck, he doesn't care. And that's all well and good, and I appreciate that. But I feel like once he starts to lose a fight, he'll look for things like that. And I'm not saying that it didn't happen. But what I'm saying is you know, in the Wonderboy fight, Kevin Holland, he does, some fighters, when they get injured, want to hide it. Because here's the thing. It's in the rule books that if you have a break of any kind, the referee is obliged, they have to stop the fight. Like, they have to. It's an obligation. And that includes a hand. So if it's known to the referee that your hand is broken, they're supposed to stop the fight. In the Wonderboy fight, Kevin Holland kept doing this. At the end of the round, he'd shake his hand and walk over to the side of the cage and tell his buddies, like, broke my hand, making it very clear. Whereas you have other fighters that will hide that shit till the fucking, like, Robert Whittaker is a good example of this. Bro gets a blown out knee in the Yoel Romero fight. You wouldn't even be able to really tell until his post-fight interview. You know what I mean? He broke his hand in a ton of fights as well. You wouldn't really be able to tell until his post-fight interview, because he'll improvise. If he can't throw the right hand, he'll throw elbows, and he'll throw the right hand. But you know what I mean? Kevin Holland does this thing where he wants people to know. Do you know what I mean? Because if he starts losing, he feels like he has to have an excuse of some sort. And in the Wonderboy fight, he broke his hand, and he kept doing that. And then the fight ended up being stopped over the broken hand. But then you come to find out that Wonderboy's hands, both of them, were, like, worse than Kevin Holland's. Like, Wonderboy had fucking destroyed his hands, and he was still throwing. Not a peep of it. Not even when Kevin Holland goes up to Wonderboy and shows him his swollen hand, and Wonderboy's like, oh my god, look at that. Not even a, fuck man, me too, I broke my hands. Because he's too nice of a guy. But, you know, we didn't hear anything about Wonderboy's broken hands until, like, a week after the fight when he uploaded x-rays, essentially, and pictures of his own hands. So, I'm not saying that he didn't get injured. And if he did get injured, listen, dude, it is what it is. But it's just, it seems like, I don't know if it's enough to say a pattern or a trend with Kevin Holland quite yet. But I feel like this is the second time we've seen it. And you know, at the end of the round, he sat up and he's pointing over to his corner. Like, he wants everybody to know I'm fucking injured. Whereas we have other fighters who are like, just, nope, you know, because they don't want people to find out. Especially the referee. Because then the fight's fucking stopped. You know what I mean? But either way, you're at altitude. If he did fuck his rib up, that would have been a rough, you know, couple rounds for him after that. Roman was beating the shit out of him from full mount. So, probably a good thing that it got stopped when it did. But either way, I mean, it was a weird one. A bit of a fluky win for Roman Dolidze, I guess you could say. Although he did get him down and get into a pretty dominant position before the injury happened. That's what caused the injury to happen. So, it is what it is. I picked Roman Dolidze to win this fight. And if I'm not mistaken, he was, at the very least, a slight underdog. All right, moving up the card. Jose Aldo versus Mario Bautista. Dude, I'm so sick of this shit. I'm so sick of this shit. And you know what? I'm sick of Joe Rogan and John Anik. And I'm sick of Daniel Cormier pretending like the fans that don't like watching this are the ones that don't know the sport. Joe Rogan often says this phrase that drives me up the fucking wall. He says, I'm a purist. No, the fuck you're not. Because you know what that means? That means you should be like, it's like an originalist in law reading. You're reading the rules by the letter of the rules, right? Letter of the law. That's how you're not going to go into any interpretations. You're going to read the fucking rules. And in the rules it says that control time is not to be scored unless all else is equal. Control time is fucking nothing. And they keep saying this shit. And you've got one guy in Jose Aldo who in my opinion won round 2 and then was the only one trying to fight in round 3. The only one. And he's getting stalled out. That is stalling. And that's against the fucking rules. So Joe Rogan, if you truly were a purist, you should be advocating for this to be separated or to be warned or something, because it's against the rules to stall and be timid and to not try to progress the fight, which Mario Bautista was not really doing. He was trying to take Jose Aldo down. And listen, dude, we need more strikers like Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo still, to this day, has phenomenal takedown defense. This was a much younger guy with a crazy gas tank who's got a lot of finishes on his record, a very good grappler, and he could not fucking get Jose Aldo down. Look at that, dude. 0 of 10 takedowns. 0 of 10 takedowns. And look, if you want to not be a purist and you want to try and interpret the rules, then you can look at... You could genuinely argue that defending 10 takedowns is diminishing your opponent's spirit, okay, which is a form of impact in the scoring criteria. Now, it's not the first form of impact that gets listed. You're looking for swelling and cuts and things like that, which Mario Bautista had some of, but not really Jose Aldo, right? But in that third round, you have Jose Aldo trying to fight. Every time he gets space, he's trying to fight, and Mario Bautista is trying to just drive him up against the fence and not fight. That's not fighting. I'm sick of people acting like that's just fighting. It's fucking not. You're not doing nothing. You know? And if you're... Fuck, it drove me crazy. You would think, with the amount of time he spent up with Jose Aldo up against the fence, there would have been like 30 takedown attempts, right? But there wasn't. There was 10. Like, I wonder what the control time was. It doesn't say on here, but for crying out loud, dude, I'm so fucking sick of it. And then you got John Anik, Daniel Cormier, and Joe Rogan gaslighting the fans and acting like this is like we're being the fucking idiots. No, dude, we want to watch a fight. You know, people always will, you know, there will be people in the comments, well, go watch kickboxing then. No, you go watch wrestling then. And you know what, dude, in jiu-jitsu, I don't know if it's like this for all jiu-jitsu tournaments, but you get in trouble for, you know what, dude, stalling. You get in trouble for that. You do. You know, I'm pretty sure you would even maybe in wrestling. Who fucking knows? I'm not a big wrestling guy, so I can't tell you. Somebody in the comments can let me know. But I've watched enough jiu-jitsu tournaments to see guys get, you know, told to work when they're just stalling. Even in a grappling tournament, they need to see more action than what we saw from Mario Bautista in round 3. And when you've got Mike Beltran, who, by the way, refs grappling. Okay, Mike Beltran knows grappling. He refs jiu-jitsu. You've got him separating them And then instantly Bautista shoots back on the legs. And you have Joe Rogan being like, God, man, he's a pit bull, man. No, he's not. He's not trying to do any fucking damage at all. What are you talking about? Pit bulls are trying to do damage, dude. Pit bulls are trying to do damage. Mario Bautista is a fucking chihuahua, okay? They might even be more vicious than him. At least in this fight. Because listen, dude, I've been pretty high on Mario Bautista. I think he's good, technically speaking, in the grappling department and whatever else, and he sets a crazy pace, but this was not a good showing. And then they just, you know, John Anik, well, I don't know what the fan base thinks at home, but the rightful winner won this one. I don't know, dude, did he? Did he? You know? Because if we're looking at Impact, I don't know that he did. Which, you know, I'm sick of people saying, damage isn't in the scoring criteria, bro. No, Impact is, and they define it, and it's defined as damage, okay? It's a synonym in that regard, so shut the fuck up with that. Good lord. And look at this. You can see the total strike numbers, and while it looks like Bautista's pretty significantly ahead, the significant strike numbers are in favor of Jose Aldo. They are. And in round 3, he's by a significant margin, which means, by the way, that this third round was not even enough to justify going to control time as a fucking scoring criteria. Okay, Joe Rogan, you are not a purist. You are trying to make a new sport by your advocacy of what we should be watching and when referees should separate and when they should not separate. Okay, and John Anik, I understand that you have multiple close friends who are fighters that are also grapplers, that also implement a very similar style. John Anik is good friends with Bilal Muhammad. He's good friends with Ray Longo, therefore he's friends with, well, not therefore, by like de facto, but he is friends with Jose Aldo, and he is also friends with Merab Dvalishvili. This is a style that he feels the need to defend, in my opinion, because of personal relationships outside, well, not outside of the UFC, but, you know, outside of his role as a commentator. So that's my take on that. I thought Jose Aldo won round 3 and 2 and 3. I thought Bautista did a great job in round 1 and was landing good shots. And, you know, clearly round 2, Jose Aldo cracked him with a big knee up the middle, cut him open with, I believe it was a jab, was landing that jab basically at fucking will. Doing really good work, landed a few leg kicks even, which we like to see from Aldo. Now, I wish he would have thrown more of them and things like that. There was probably a bit more he could have done in round 3. But, man, you know, and then Bautista even trying to blame John Anik at the beginning of round 2 said that Jose Aldo's coach was like telling his pupil not to stall. Motherfucker, who's stalling? Jesus Christ. He was trying to like make sure that we heard that because he thinks that Mario Bautista isn't the one responsible for that fucking bullshit. Moving up the card, dude. Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena. Who cares, dude? Listen, I might be grumpy this morning, I don't know, but who gives a shit? What? I saw people claiming Robert. I mean, what? Who cares? Was there one? I don't know. You want to know why? Because I forget it. I forget most of it. But I said this leading up to the fight. The fact that this is a championship fight is pretty fucking embarrassing, if I'm being honest. Now, I'm glad, I guess, that Juliana Pena won because unlike Raquel Pennington, she does not act like she is above selling a fight or trash talking and things like that. Right? But we have a champion. We have a champion who cannot strike without closing their eyes. Not even on the defensive. When she's throwing, she closes her eyes. Somebody in my chat said this. I thought it was brilliant. Kool-Aid Man. That she looks like a person trying to find the light switch in a pitch black room when she strikes. And that's true. Her stance is fucking weird. She's bent over at like, she's like hunched over from like the belly button upwards, completely hunched over, and her elbows like this, and her What are we watching here? I don't understand it. I don't know why people are claiming robbery. I thought Pena got round 1, I guess. Round 2, I think, went to Raquel. I don't know if that was the round, yeah, it was where she got the knockdown. What round did she get the knockdown in? By the way, first knockdown in, what, 14 years or maybe even longer? Okay, well, Raquel might have taken the last couple rounds, but I don't know, man. Who cares? I don't fucking care. Probably better that Juliana Pena is the champion. Although what I thought was weird was Dana White was asked about this fight, and this was the fight that led off his conversation in the post-fight press conference, saying that the officiating was terrible. So I wonder if he thought Raquel Pennington won that fight. I thought he would have been happy because Juliana Pena and Kayla Harrison will be a better build-up than Raquel Pennington and Kayla Harrison. Raquel Pennington is literally like the frumpiest person on the roster. She will not engage in selling the fight, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, your paycheck kind of depends on this lady. That's why I you know, it was very forgettable. Honestly, if I was to give a honest interpretation of who I think won the fight, I would need to go back and rewatch it, which I tell you what, dude, I don't call me a fucking casual. I'm not going to do it. You can't make me. So let's get to the main event, okay? Alex Pereira versus Khalil Rountree Jr. Holy fucking Christ, thank God for this fight. You know, except my voice got damaged. My throat is killing me right now. But it doesn't matter because holy shit. Now, there were some things that we spoke about leading up to this fight if you watched my Keys to Victory video, okay? Khalil Rountree Jr. is shorter than a lot of Alex Pereira's opponents. And there was another opponent that he had in kickboxing that gave him a lot of trouble, which was Artem Vakitov. Artem Vakitov is quite a bit shorter than him as well, and he's like a stockier dude, very compact. Now, he's not as big and jacked as an explosive as Khalil. His technique is much cleaner, so it's faster than Khalil, but he gave Alex Pereira issues. Okay, I thought he won their first fight, and the second fight was very close as well. Or pardon me, yeah, I thought he won the first fight that Alex got the nod in. I thought Alex won the second fight that Artem got the nod in. That's glory kickboxing for you, but either way, something that Vakitov did that Khalil was doing early that he just wasn't able to maintain because his cardio's not there. And of course, adjustments that Alex made. Every time Alex threw something, whether it was blocked or landed or whatever, Khalil fired back. And he did. Alex whiffed on a leg kick, didn't matter, Khalil fired back. Alex threw a body jab that got blocked or a kick to the body that got blocked, he fired back. He kept doing it, and he wasn't just firing back with one. He was firing back with like 2 3-punch combinations, which is something that Vakitov was very good at doing. Also, in the early goings, Khalil was doing a good job at not allowing Alex Pereira to pressure him. There was a bit of a tug and a pull there, or push and a pull, whatever, dude. You could see that Khalil was actively trying to not let that happen. He was trying to go forward as much as he possibly can. When Vakitov was going forward in their fights, he had a bunch of success. He was landing a bunch of shit, took away some of Alex's weapons, and also the fact that he was firing back after everything makes Alex have to think, like, that there's going to be something coming back my way. I need to be a little bit more selective with my shots, okay? And that's kind of what we saw. And I understand that Alex came out and he's antibiotic, a whole host of things, right? But let's not even focus on that. Just focus on how the fight played out, because it doesn't matter. He made the adjustments, came back, and finished anyways, right? I scored the first 2 rounds for Khalil. I thought he was doing a very good job, but the problem is, and I said this in my picks video, like, his technique is not there. He's just fast and explosive, so the technique looks really good when he's landing. But when he misses is when you can see how, lacking the technique is. And you could tell when he started to get tired and the shots go a lot slower, you can see that they're arm punches. And he throws like that when he's fresh, but it's just that they're so quick and explosive, you can't really tell unless you slow the fight down, which is what I did. But holy shit, man. I mean, he was extending his combinations, landing the left hand, landing the right hand as well. And Alex looked like Alex does this thing where, if somebody lands on him, he really wants to get it back. And then he was putting himself in more danger. And Khalil just kept composure and was, but as the fight went on, There were weapons that Alex was investing in from the very beginning. Something that I thought would be of more use to him was the body jab, but then I started thinking about it while I was watching the fight, and that was that because Khalil's shorter and so much more compact, I feel like Alex is in more danger when he brings his head down to that level to throw the body jab. Whereas when it's a guy like a Yuri Prohaska or a Jamal Hill, somebody who's almost equal to him in stature or at the very least in height, they need to like punch down, and it's awkward to try and try and counter a body jab for a really tall guy is probably quite awkward. I'm not tall, I wouldn't fucking know, but just watching it, okay? Khalil Rountree, though, is a lot shorter, and he's, you know, he's not straight up in the air. He's, you know, bends his knees a bit, so he's shorter. When Alex would throw that body jab, like, he would have been at perfect counter height for Khalil. So I feel like he was kind of not using that as much with that danger being there. But we saw third round. I mean, Alex got dropped, you know, from behind. He threw that question mark kick, which he kept doing. I was getting a little nervous watching that, and then went to go spin. Khalil cracked him from behind, which was good, right to the side of the head, sat him down. The head kick, I mean, holy fucking shit, dude. This was a crazy fight, but it seems like Alex does struggle with guys that are a little bit more short and compact and explosive. This is like the Artem Vakitov fight. There were certain weapons that Khalil was using that Vakitov had a lot of success with as well. But then that third round on, holy shit, dude. You could tell. He just started to take over with the jab. The leg kick started to come a bit more easy because Khalil's worried about up top. And then he was able to mix things in. Like I said, shot selection a little bit better, a little bit more intelligently. And then you see the teeps start to come real hard. He threw a couple of them in the first two rounds, but Khalil just fired back immediately. So he was probably like, you know, I don't know that I want to go back to that because I'm going to be on one leg and, you know, some just leaning back with my chin in the air. So there were certain weapons that he kind of got away from. But as the fight went on, he started to really fucking ramp it up, and those teeps up the middle, and the jab was just absolute money. And then once Khalil started to tire, which was early, you could tell the difference from the beginning of the first round to the end of the first round. But then as the fight went on, the amount of explosiveness that he had in each round just diminished. And in the third round, he had like a minute of explosiveness. In the fourth round, he had like 30 seconds. And then you could see once his explosiveness went away for that round, and that's when Alex was like, okay, now I'm going to go get in close, and I'm just going to slip all his shit because it's going to be a lot easier to see. And he did. His head movement is fucking disgusting, and I mean that in the best way possible. Absolutely beautiful. Disgustingly beautiful is what it was. And his counter shots, oh my god, dude. Fucking hell. Khalil's face was butchered. He needs stitches in 3 places on one eye, and it's swollen completely fucking shut. That was a brutal beatdown from rounds 3 onward. And that jab was what started it off. The calf kick off the lead leg started to pick up the teep kicks, and then we saw some knees to the body towards the end of the third round, which was probably just like he's just puncturing holes in Khalil's already half-empty gas tank, do you know what I mean? And then when the finishing sequence, right, he's chasing Khalil around the octagon. He's not even like cutting him off at this point. He's stalking him. He's just walking at him. And he's landing these huge shots, and Khalil's not going down. So when he finally gets him up against the cage, he digs a right hand and then a left hand to the body and a right hand over the top, and Khalil fucking slumps. Not like he's KO'd, but those body shots killed him. That was beautiful. And Alex screamed in his face. I do believe that was out of pure frustration because this guy gave him such a hard time, and then you find out all the shit that he dealt with leading up to the fight. He was probably just so fucking relieved to get that guy out of there. And, you know, this happens a lot where you see guys that you're like on paper, to, you know, quote the late great, and no, he's not late yet, but the great Anthony Smith, okay? It just seems like it should be a fucking easy going, but I said in my Keys to Victory video, I was like, Khalil Rountree Jr. can win this fight. And then I gave reasons or things that I thought he could do that would aid him in that. The pressure was one which he tried to do early on, and he was able to do, but once he started to get tired and the jab was piecing him up and shit, that slowly went away. And then the not allowing Alex to get any freebies. Like, when he fires, you fire. Don't be afraid to fire, you know. Especially if he's just thrown, because it's going to be harder for him to counter after he's just thrown. And oftentimes we see Alex, when he's setting things up, in the earlier rounds, he's doing single shots. He's not really throwing in combination. Like, he'll throw a body jab, and then he resets, right? And then he'll throw a leg kick, and then he resets, and he throws, and so on and so forth. So you know that there's nothing really going to be behind that body jab, or there's nothing really going to be behind that teep kick. So just fucking throw. And that's what Khalil was doing, and it was giving him success. Like I said, I gave him the first 2 rounds. At least the second round for sure. But I mean, Alex just took over after that, and that 4th round was absolutely fucking brutal. That finish was brutal. It was almost worse than like a Yuri Prohaska head kick KO, just because of how beat up Khalil was. And, you know, credit to him, holy shit, is he physically tough. And he's got a chin on him. Yeah. And also, stop with the Alex Pereira has no chin. This is fucking such a bullshit narrative, and I've been saying this ever since he moved up to light heavyweight. He is now eating shots from Jan Blachowicz, Yuri Prohaska. He one right hook from Jamal, okay, that he kind of rolled with. A bunch of big left hands from Khalil, right hands from Khalil, a fucking head kick from Khalil Rountree. A punch from behind that he didn't see coming that sat him down, and he was immediately okay. You know what I mean? I think the shot that bothered him the most was actually a hard body kick from Khalil, and I think it was round number 1 or 2. I think it was 2. And that was one of the other keys to victory I gave for Khalil. I thought if he utilized body kicks, he could drain Alex's gas tank, and that was more true than we knew before the fight because of the antibiotics. It would have actually if he had maybe done that a bit more in the opening rounds, but Jesus Christ, dude, what a fucking fight that was. And in my opinion, a comeback. You know, not that the fight was running away from him per se, like he was still having success even in the rounds that I thought he lost. But it was just that Khalil had the more impactful moments of those first 2 rounds in my opinion. But he just stayed steady on that jab. Once Khalil's energy dropped off, you know, and he started to look slower and less explosive and less defensively responsible and things like that, then he really seemed to ramp it up, which, by the way, goes to show, like, some real fucking championship shit, okay? You're in Salt Lake City, Utah. We're at elevation. You were on antibiotics for fucking 2 weeks. You trained for 3 weeks. You had visa issues. You've been sick as fuck. And you're able to ramp it up like that in that 4th round, throwing 94 strikes in round 4 at light heavyweight to get the finish. That's pretty fucking incredible, dude. You know, pretty incredible. Either way, this video was a lot longer than I thought it would be. I apologize for that, dude. I'm, you know, not feeling great, so I didn't want to try and rip through shit, except for those earlier shittier fights. But hey, dude, you got good conversations for the fights that mattered, okay? So anyways, dude, great fight in the main event. I was about to say great card, but that's a fucking lie. Like and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.